Welcome to episode 4 of Rummin with Rumsey, presented by me Swimlane, and me Benny, and me Lenny. Our fine folks over in marketing made a report about AI. Is it overhyped? Are people using it? Who should govern it? So we're gonna go where no company's gone before. We're gonna talk about AI. This is a video about AI. You guys wanna do another video about AI? No one's ever done it. Yeah, that sounds like they definitely wanna talk about AI. I sat down with Cody Cornell, founder of Swimlane. He's our chief strategy officer. We talk over some of the key findings that we found in this report. I'm gonna add the report to the link in the description so you can see for yourself. And let's jump right into it. Let's get into the footage.
The dogs come in post-production?
Yeah, they come in at the thumbnail, so people click on the video. The gist of this is marketing did basically an AI hype report where we surveyed 500 security leaders in the US and the UK and asked them, do you think AI is being overhyped in the market? Are you using AI? Is your budget going to increase to accommodate AI-enabled solutions? Who's governing AI? The AI regulation right now is very focused on transparency, and a lot of things in the planning phase of a project. I feel like it hits on ethics. I mean, you being the chief strategy officer here, when we were first conceptualizing what is Hero AI, what were you thinking about?
I mean, the things that you think about, are twofold, right? Is one, I guess the first and most important question was adding AI to the available capabilities of our platform actually going to drive a good outcome for the customer? There is a ton of hype. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of pressure from competitors and from investors and from the market in general to have AI. And, the question I, really came back to a lot of times as we were, ramping up to this is probably, over a year and a half ago now, is it going to drive a better outcome than what we could do without AI? And I think that's something that, a lot of folks don't pause to think about a lot of times is, what's the outcome I'm trying to drive, and is AI the right thing to do that? And then, once we realized it was, if you think about what we do, it's very operational. If I'm an orchestrator and I need to, build this ability to parse this, custom piece of telemetry, then I might need a script to do that. And if I don't know how to write a script, Gen AI is really good at that. So, it's a good value add. Or if I'm a newer analyst and I don't know the organization really well, and I want to, write a summary about this alert, but I want to be able to bring in context about my environment. I might not have that as an individual, but the organization institutionally does, and it's been kind of codified inside of a system that actually can write a really good summary. So there are some of these things that it can do really, really well. So once we decided that was the case, then we got into well, how do you implement this in a way in which customers will actually use it? And I think that's where, if I look around, some people didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about. They said, Gen AI and LLMs are the future. We're going to use them. What's the fastest way that I can use them? The fast way is I can get an API key from, OpenAI, and I can take this customer's data, shoot it over there, and it'll give me a response back. And granted, that is probably the fastest way to build and get features built, but it doesn't really take into consideration, what most customers expect when they give you data. Now, all data types are different. Security data is typically considered fairly sensitive. So the idea of somebody taking, sensitive security data and pitching it out to a public LLM, which, if you've looked at any of those EULAs and understand, they've done a better job over time at, protecting data and giving you more privacy, but they still kind of have the right to train, and they still have the right to, keep your prompts and, all of those different things. So for security practitioners, especially for our customers who are, typically, Fortune 2000 organizations, that's really not a palatable option. So what we really had to look at is, how do we implement a Gen AI capability within the product that's going to drive really good value for the customer, but is also going to actually, be available in a way they're willing to use. And I think that's actually a harder thing to do than people realize, because, you have data sovereignty questions. You have questions about how is the data trained? If you're going to do a prompt, where does the data come from to build that prompt? And do you save that prompt? And is that available? And there's all sorts of questions you kind of have to ask about that broader architecture and the sensitivity around it. And, those are things that we spent a lot of time thinking about, and is one of the reasons why we think customers are eager to adopt, is because they know that we're doing it in a way that's transparent, it's secure, it's in alignment with, all of our data sovereignty, requirements and controls that we've put in place. And so they feel good about it. So now they can actually get to the thing that they want, which is, it drives value for them.
Yeah, totally agree. And just so we can provide some actual value in this discussion, I have it in my head, but I want your opinion. What is by far the most important thing we did from an architecture perspective to ensure our customers would adopt it? To me, it's 100% making it a private LLM that is isolating per customer their data and not training a larger model on the prompts that they put in. So having the private LLM is a huge component.
I would agree with you, right? Like the thing that customers feel most comfortable with, because the thing they're most worried about is if you train on their data, LLMs are still so new. We have not seen all of the potential mechanisms in which data might be leaked out of these LLMs. I think we're developing new, from a threat actor perspective, new techniques almost on a weekly basis. And the likelihood that my sensitive data is spilled to somebody else is really high. So if you're training on really sensitive data, customer sensitive data, the likelihood of now or sometime in the future of that being, lost through, some type of prompt injection technique or some technique we've never heard of or doesn't even have a name yet, gets used, then all of a sudden my data is out in the public, or at least not in the public, but is out in a way that I didn't want it from a data sensitivity perspective. And I think that is really the most important element of making sure that someone feels comfortable with it is if the model itself is not trained on the underlying sensitive data, then there's no way for you to expose sensitive data. And I think that's really, really important.
When we interviewed like the 500 people, 76% responded. The market is oversaturated with AI hype. 55% are feeling fatigued at getting all of these sales pitches of AI-enabled solutions. But then on the flip side, we also asked, well, what's your budget looking like for 2025? With 90% of them saying, well, the budget is increasing with a focus on AI-enabled solutions. So a little contradicting, but at the same time, it's not. It's basically like, well, the market knows that AI is hype, so everyone's doing it. Since we've been over, a year and a half in the making of Hero AI, what are some of the metrics that you say, wow, this is actually helping our customers?
Yeah, I mean, from a metrics perspective, I want to be moving the metrics that an organization is measured on and really uses to define their own success, right? That might be maintaining SLAs if they're a managed service provider. It might be, staying within compliance if you're an enterprise, whatever it might be, there's these measurements, right? And MSSP is trying to manage as many customers as it possibly can with high customer satisfaction with as few people as possible, right? That's really where their business becomes successful. And that's really what our goal is there. So, for us, it really depends on the organization. If you're talking to a managed service provider, we hear from them that, hey, we can manage more logos with less analysts. We can, we're getting, some of them refer to as like virtual analyst capacity. I didn't have to hire more people, or the people that I have are much more effective. It's a force multiplier for them. So everybody's going to measure that a little bit differently. That might come in kind of workforce efficiency. That might come in the form of, being able to generate more revenue at a better, operational expense, so they have better margins. So there's some things there that, like from a managed service perspective, that are really important. If you get into the enterprise, it's more along the lines of, how do we have higher success rates in our compliance requirements? How do we, keep our tenure rate of our security analysts, because they're not being burnt out, because they have these capabilities that are allowing them to work more efficiently and just have a better work life. So I think every organization has its different pain points, but a lot of it comes down to how much work can we do with the people that we have in a way that they can do it and feel like they're getting good job satisfaction without burning them out. Unfortunately, it really comes down to the basics. It's always the basics. It's how do we do the job that we've been prescribed to do in a way that we keeps the organization secure and we can retain good talent. Like, that is a lot of what operations is. And that's not just the SOC, right? That's people that are trying to get your vulnerability patching done in time. It's folks that are responding to fraud issues. It's organizations that are dealing with like data loss or onboarding, new employees from an identity perspective. There's just, it's every person in the chain that is really affected by this. And I think the metric for them depends on the day.
Right. My metric, if I was just thinking about useful AI in our tool, I love the ability that you can generate Python scripts to help somebody like me with little to no coding experience make very powerful like compliance automation use cases. We can actually enable people to build automations so much easier than it was in the past.
I think there's a bit of a misnomer about how AI and automation are going to, I guess, potentially one displace the other over time, and or, in my opinion, I think the latter, which is how do they work together to achieve the outcome? If you think about the outcome that people want from automation, is they want to be able to do more efficiently, quickly, consistently, in a way that they're prescribed. And if you think about what people want to do with AI, is they want to do more quicker with less effort, and get the outcome they want, right? So there are things that are different, right? Automation works a little bit better when things are more structured, and the information that you need there is available to continue the pipeline. Where AI is a little bit better in dealing with like unstructured data. It's a little better dealing with more ambiguous circumstances, the analysis of larger data sets, things like that. But together, they're really powerful, because really what one does is AI is going to allow us to automate more use cases. But even if you can make really good decisions with AI, you still need an underlying fabric in which to execute those. And automation function, right? I mean, and that could be SOAR, that could be RPA, that could be any type of automation, really. And you could take this even to the physical world, right? For think about like the sorting of packages at a warehouse, right? They have automated robots, they're doing all these things. What's happening there, right? You have a system that makes decisions, but you still have to have an automation system that can go do the work. You have to be able to action that decision, and I think that's really important. And I think it's something that a lot of folks underappreciate when they think about, how do I use AI in security? It's like, well, I brought in all this data. I made this really cool decision that would have been really hard to make outside of an AI. But now that I've made a decision, I have to go do something about it. I have to go instrument that somewhere in my environment. And you know what? That sounds really familiar to, hey, I have this SIM. It did this really cool heuristic analysis and found this anomaly. Now I got to go do something with it, right? So I'm not saying that SIMs and AI are synonymous with each other, but if you think about the last mile problem of both of those, you still need that underlying fabric in which to go do something with your decision or detection or whatever it is.
Exactly. I'll end on something fun. How many AI webinars have you done since in the last year and a half? If you could put a number on it.
Well, I'll speak to the hype. I've probably done a dozen, like either webinars or panels, in-person presentations, probably somewhere between 15 and 20 now that I think about it, that have included AI as either it came up in conversation or it was the conversation. I would say it's probably been 20 this year, so a couple times a month. But I do think that people are overwhelmed with the amount of AI stuff that's coming at them. I saw one of those classic memes with the guy with the tuba, with the person pressed against the wall, and it's like AI is just like blasting them in the face, like which I thought was pretty funny. But on the flip side, I actually think that we are overestimating what AI will do in the short term, but dramatically underestimating what it will do in the long. So I think there's this moment where we're being bludgeoned with it, and it feels exhausting, and it is overhyped, and it's probably not delivering on all the magic that everybody's claiming it's going to provide. But I feel like underestimating it over the next 5 to 10 years would not be smart, right? So I really think it's going to be transformational. And I think it's going to be transformational in a positive way, in the sense that it's going to create more opportunity and more productivity for everybody in the economy. I'm not very concerned about it being a circumstance in where it's going to take a bunch of jobs. I think it's going to create more opportunity than it's going to take.
Well put. Well said. And that's it. Boom! And there you have it, folks. Cody, our founder's take on AI. Jesus Christ. There it is. That's Rummin with Rums, episode 4. Follow Swimlane on LinkedIn.com. It's a social media platform for business professionals.